for a master plan. Everybody can hear me. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Council Chair, Steve Riley. Vice Chair, Steve Ribbon. Here. Council members Grant Ball. Here. Brian Bale. Here. Dick Horn. Here. Danny White. Here. Town Administrator Matt Stinnett. Here. Town Attorney Carl Bone. Here. Town Engineer Morris Smith. Here. Administrative Assistant to the Building Official Deneen Shearer. Here. Fire Chief Mike Foley. Here. I'm the Town Clerk Treasurer Debbie Franklin. The Town Planner Todd Mallory is on his way.
Thank you. Is there any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda? I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the Town Council meeting minutes of August 5th, 2019.
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried 5-0. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the General Council Budget Workshop meeting minutes of August 12th.
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried 5-0. Move on to the attorney report.
No reports, man.
Move on to Sheriff Song today. There he is.
Crowd control. Hello. Yeah. Obviously, you guys had something fun to discuss tonight.
You might want to stick around.
We're still having issues collecting our CAD data, so I don't have anything for you unless you want something for me. I'm hoping to be able to report to you next month. We'll have it resolved. And did see some communication data. We're working on it, so but I don't have anything for you. That's earth-shattering. Unless you want to talk about something.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Appreciate your time.
Okay.
Move on to administrator's report. Madam Clerk, anything?
Nothing.
All right, we have no public comments. So we'll move on to our first action item tonight is the land use and zoning change request by Stuart J. Gordon and Nancy Tino Gordon Trust. First reading. This item was postponed from the August 5th, 2019, and it's ordinance 2019-08. Please, first I want to read the agenda item tonight is to approve the zoning map and land use change from coastal reserve to commercial general. The decision that would be made tonight by the town council is only related to the parcel of land, not the land owner. The landowner can sell the parcel tomorrow, but the zoning map and land use change will always stay with this parcel of land. You are invited to come up to the podium when I call you, and please state your name and your residence address for the record. You can only address council, not the public. You need to stay on the agenda item topic and strictly address the zoning and land use change. You can address the commercial general allowable uses for the parcel. If you go off topic, I will gavel you and say, please stay on the agenda item topic. If you continue to go off topic, I will ask you to leave the podium and allow the next speaker to talk. Go on to, please read by title only.
An ordinance of the Town of Malabar, Brevard County, Florida, amending the land use map and zoning map for the .31 acre plus or minus on the east side of U.S. Highway 1 in Township 28 South, Range 28 East, Section 31, Parcel 250.4, Malabar, Florida, as more particularly described in this ordinance from coastal preserve to commercial general, providing for amendment to the official town land use and zoning maps, providing for an effective date.
Thank you. I'll call the petitioners up to the podium, please.
Thank you, council members. My name is Jeff Smith. I'm an attorney, and I'm here on behalf of the applicants, Stuart and Nancy Gordon. They are seeking to rezone 0.31 acres from coastal preservation to commercial general, and to reflect that change in the future land use map. Their plan for the future. The reason for seeking that change is to develop a small, eco-friendly boutique hotel that will be part of a unified development with existing Yellow Dog Cafe. I think you know Stuart and Nancy have been members of the Malabar community for 22 years. The Yellow Dog is an existing business that brings economic benefits to the community, attracts visitors, provides jobs, and is generally a great destination that I'm certainly one that feels it's an attraction to come down here to Malabar and enjoy the town. And I think that's what they are seeking to do in the rezoning, is to provide those types of benefits with a proposed expansion of their business that would provide jobs, provide economic development, provide support to the business community, and ultimately still doing all of that while preserving the character of the town of Malabar and preserving the environment of the town of Malabar. Nothing that they intend to do with the property would disturb the character of the town. The staff recommendation, I know you will hear from staff, but the staff recommendation that's before you tonight is to approve the proposed change. And I'll just read from the town clerk's memorandum. Staff has found that the proposed CG classification is consistent with the comprehensive plan, compatible with the surrounding areas, apartments and multifamily to the north and commercial to the west, conforms with the stated desire of the council to encourage commercial development along the main corridors. Staff has evaluated the request based on language in the Land Development Code and the Comprehensive Plan, and recommends approval of the land use designation change and the corresponding zoning change. So that's often called the 3 Cs, and the town, the town planner went through and reviewed the proposed change under the 10 criteria that are in your zoning code to support a change. And when you go through those criteria, you will see that the town planner, Mr. Mowry, I know he will be here shortly if he's not here already, but his memorandum, that's part of your agenda packet, also discusses those criteria. And I just briefly review them with you. The first is whether the proposal is consistent with the comprehensive plan, including the adopted infrastructure and minimum levels of service, standards, and concurrency management program. The finding of your town planner was there are no identified inconsistencies at this stage, and the parcels to the north and west of this site are CG. At the time of a site plan, an analysis may be more fully developed for consistency with the comp plan. At that time, trip generation and impacts on level of service will be evaluated. But no inconsistencies with the comprehensive plan. The second point, conformance with ordinances. The finding was there are no identified non-conformities at this time. Again, if there's a site plan that's not consistent, that'll be addressed through the site planning process. The third factor of change condition, whether and to what extent land use and development conditions have changed. The response from the town planner, Malabar continues to be a major roadway, as is US Highway 1. The Yellow Dog Cafe has been there for over 20 years and has created a thriving business that brings visitors and residents to the area. I'm glad he agrees with me on that. In recent years, they've also purchased the property on the west side of US 1, adding additional parking and business office. So again, a favorable finding on that criteria. As to the land use compatibility, whether and the extent to which the proposal would result in incompatible land use, the finding of the planner, which I agree with the surrounding properties to the north and west are zoned commercial general. A change would reduce the amount of coastal preserve from the northernmost section by less than half an acre. This is his words, not mine, a de minimis reduction. We had a discussion last time about at the Planning and Zoning what has been, somebody said, what do we mean by de minimis? It means negligible or not significant enough that would cause anybody real concern that we're going to lose the coastal preservation element of your comprehensive plan or somehow do damage to the idea that there are coastal preserve properties still on US 1. Number 5, the adequate public facilities. Again, the finding is site served by a major roadway, US 1, provides existing capacity, solid waste available, and it goes on. So as to the natural environment, that's important. The town planner says at the time of the site plan, if there's any protected species, or wildlife or fauna, they can be addressed. And again, just kind of goes on and talks about the things that would be done through the site planning process. As to economic effects, we talked about that. The town planner had found there would be no adverse economic impacts, and in fact, we would expect very positive economic impacts. As to orderly development, which is number 8 on your criteria list, there's not been identified any problem with orderly development, and I would note that as far as orderly development, it makes perfect sense to say you're going to allow an existing business, been there 22 years, to build something that will be adjacent to and to the person that is driving down the road and looking at this. It's not sprawling development. It will look and feel as part of that existing business. The public interest, again, your town planner says there are no conflicts of public interest identified. We agree. And finally, other matters, to the extent that there were other conditions, I think that Stuart and Nancy are open to your input and suggestions. But what they have planned for the town is something that I think everybody can get behind and support. I know there are going to be a lot of people here tonight that don't support it, that are going to express their opposition, because I was there at the P&Z meeting. I heard many of the concerns of people who came to that meeting. I think the concerns, I would group them into what I call 3 buckets. The first one is that there's a group of people that feel that their river view that they currently enjoy would be disturbed by this development. A second kind of bucket of comments was that there is some potential future possible environmental harm to the Indian River Lagoon. I don't think that there's been anybody who's really identified anything concrete. It's just sort of a notion that there could be an impact to the lagoon. A third is just sort of a general fear of the unknown, that, well, if we do this, then you could end up, it may be a good plan for the Bortons, but you could end up with a Wawa or a drive-through fast food or some other use. And so I'll try to address that. Finally, there was what I'd call sort of the slippery slope or domino effect argument, that if we do this there for this one piece of property, then it's going to tip the dominoes and all the coastal preservation property is going to go away. So I want to address each of those very briefly. The first, as to the river view, I just read from your town attorney's statement, because I think his memo to council is instructive, and it discusses the whole issue about the river view, and he concludes that he says, I understand there was some discussion at P&Z regarding the possible obstruction of the view of the river by neighbors. He goes on to cite some Florida Supreme Court cases, some other case law. I'm not going to bore you with all the details, but his conclusion is it would appear that only property owners who have land adjoining the river would should have some riparian right to a protected view. And that's just sort of common sense. If you have somebody living between you and the river, yes, they may put a structure there that impedes your view of the river, but if they have property between you and the river, they may also plant a tree, plant bushes, go up with their building to whatever the height restriction is. So there's many things that can happen. Nobody has an absolute right to a continued unobstructed view of the river unless they can show riparian rights. There's been some discussion, well, maybe some people have a riparian right by deed or some other way. I would just suggest to you on the council that's certainly a matter that courts in Florida are well versed in and very capable of handling. So to the extent somebody says, you can't do that because I have riparian rights, that would be a legal challenge that they could file. And if they're right, then presumably a judge would say, no, you can't do that because this other neighbor has riparian rights and you're not allowed to use your property. But it really does, the bottom line on all of this is that's not a reason to deny the zoning. That's the fact that some people would have an obstructed view. Going on the speculative environmental impacts, and this, it comes in the form of people will say, well, I think I'm here because I support preserving the river. I think I would wager that every person in this room tonight supports preserving our Indian River Lagoon and wants to clean up our Indian River Lagoon. And I'd say Stuart and Nancy are right there, side by side, shoulder to shoulder with everybody else that says they want to preserve the lagoon. But changing this zoning has nothing at all to do with any impact on the lagoon. To the extent they want to use their property for a development, it will go through full site plan review, drainage review, species review, by the St. Johns River Water Management District, FDEP, every regulatory agency, and they will have to meet all requirements of the town as well as every other jurisdictional agency to ensure protection of the lagoon. There's nothing about the zoning change that says you're not going to now protect the lagoon. In fact, what will happen is through a site plan, they will actually be able to provide for some net benefit to the lagoon because through drainage and things that is runoff that's currently flowing down and carrying fertilizer or whatever other materials that goes right off into the river can be contained within a water retention and treatment system that would be part of their site development plan. So I think that the environmental impact argument is kind of a fear-mongering argument and really doesn't address the reality of the situation of somebody who wants to build a small boutique hotel. Two more points. The fear of the unknown. They've been here for 22 years. I don't think that they're trying to hoodwink anybody. I don't think that they're going to say, we wanted to get this done. We said we're going to do a small boutique hotel. Now we're going to put in a gas station. We're going to sell it to somebody who's going to put in a gas station. It's not going to happen.
I need to address council.
Oh, I apologize. I apologize. I did mean those comments to be addressed to council. And finally, on the issue of the domino effect, I just want you to think about this. The idea is that, well, if we do it for the Bortons and we allow them to change that coastal preserve to commercial general, then every other person that's similarly situated is going to be coming in here and want. And I just want you to pause and say, where's the other property that's like this one? What's the next domino that's going to fall? I'm sorry, I have a habit of doing this. Where's the next domino that's going to fall? The fact is, there is no other property that's anything like what they're proposing to do. There's no other property that says, I'm right adjacent to a business that's been here thriving for 22 years and I want to expand it. There's nowhere else that's happening. So I would just assert to you, I don't think that there's a danger of a domino effect. I agree with the town planner. It's a de minimis effect, a negligible effect, a 0.3 acre effect.
I wouldn't have to include an addition to an existing
Excuse me,
building.
Corn.
When you say something that's not so.
Hey, Dick, you can't, wait till he finishes his presentation.
Councilmember Corn, I hear what you're saying, and I just don't see how anybody could make a simple argument that there is a need to change the zoning code to accommodate a use that's currently not allowed, that would be allowed, that would be part of something that's already in town. That's my point, and I just didn't see it. In conclusion, I think the proposal will benefit the entire town of Malabar, the entire community, staff across the board, the town planner, the town engineer, staff in general has supported approval of this project. It needs the 3 C's, compatibility, consistency, as we talked about. And finally, it still has to go through full site planning before anything is developed. And I leave you with this. You have citizens coming forward and saying, hey, I'd like to invest millions to improving the community with a visionary project that will enhance what's already been here for many, many years, and bringing jobs to the community, enhancing the town's image, and I would just urge you to vote for that. It's a good deal when somebody wants to invest in your community like that.
Okay, hope to stand up, Steve. Okay, is there any questions from council? Dick Corn.
No, I just want to be sure that, you said that there's no other possibility of a domino effect of a business going on to another. No, but there are other things that could happen to the south of there from where they're doing. The other businesses, I see nothing wrong with that. It might be a domino, but it doesn't have to have an existing business to attach to, like theirs is going.
Councilman,
That's what I wanted to make sure that you're clear on.
Okay, and I don't disagree with you. What I was trying to address was the notion that, and every project would be evaluated by this council based on the merits. I just was saying, this project meets all of your 10 criteria for a change, and just because you approve it doesn't mean you have to approve every other request that comes in. It may be very good reasons to approve another request. I'm not foreclosing that.
Any other questions from council? Great, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Right, now we'll move on to our cards. So please state your name and address, where you reside for the record. We got 28 of them. You're welcome to come up to the podium. Please state your name and address, where you reside for the record.
Stuart Gordon, on 905 US Highway 1, Malabar, Florida. Yellow Dog Cafe. We have been looking at this project for a couple decades now. Slowly acquiring the property. And the last piece of property we acquired was from DOT. It was a little 5,000 square foot property that we acquired from DOT, and that was formerly a road right away. So DOT allowed us to buy this last little piece of property to make our property a 20,000 plus square foot property. So it would meet the criteria of a buildable lot on the river. We're the only place in Malabar on the river, surrounded by commercial property or other high-density properties, that has city water and sewer. We're the only place in Malabar that has that. That's a pretty basic, a really, really unique situation. It's on the arterial. road, it's on US 1. There's a crosswalk right across the road from her that would come basically right back around to this property. So a lot of the mitigating circumstances that we would need to deal with when we go to planning and zoning, a lot of those things are already being looked at, have been looked at, and have been addressed in the past. So, this is not something we just thought of. We've been talking about it to our staff and our friends and neighbors for years. Maybe they weren't listening, but this is not something we just came up with. 20 years ago, we bought the Callaghan property. And that property there had 5 lots on the river. A few years later, we bought another property that was between the Callaghan property and Yellow Dog Cafe. That property there was owned by the people kitty corner across from the property, or directly across from Yellow Dog Cafe, Frank Toomer. And that property is in Palm Bay, but the riverfront property was in Malabar. So that allowed us to have this contiguous piece from Yellow Dog Cafe all the way down to where you turn around and come back. I would appreciate your support in this project. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah. Stuart, what size hotel are you talking about? And is it not 100 rooms?
We're thinking 4 or 5, but
Right.
code doesn't say we can do that, so we would have to, as it says right now, code says 12 for a hotel. So we're gonna try to, we'd have to go through planning and zoning and try to get that high number of rooms, which is very low, knocked down to a lower number. We really don't want a big monstrosity. We're really looking for a little boutique, environmentally friendly, kind of like a guest house for brides. When they come there to be married, they would have a place to spend the evening.
Thank you. All right, we're going to take the cards in the order that they were received. You'll have 5 minutes, and after a while, if you start repeating what other people said, otherwise we'll be here until 1 o'clock. Okay, I got to pass the gavel.
Okay, we'll go ahead with the cards in the order in which they were received. Oh, you're next. Mayor Riley had the first card.
That's not true. I can't speak as mayor. I can only speak as Pat Riley, 1985 Howell Lane, Malabar. With 18 years of reading, understanding, and updating and adding to the Town of Malabar land development codes and comprehensive plan, I respectfully disagree with town staff's conclusion that the parcel meets the 3 C's: consistency, compatibility, and capability, along with the requirements shown in the land development code for commercial general. This parcel is not consistent with the newly updated Town of Malabar Comprehensive Plan, future land use maps, and chapters. Planning and Zoning and Council spent 5 years updating and working on the state of Florida mandated document. The comprehensive plan was reviewed and approved by the state of Florida July 9, 2019. This parcel has been and still is shown as coastal preserve. I agree that the parcel is adjacent to commercial general to the north and to the west, but we have the Indian River Lagoon on the east, and it doesn't have a Town of Malabar zoning designation. As the Marine Council, as the Marine Resource Council Director Stephen Chalmers had stated at the Planning and Zoning meeting, a commercial general usage, which is a high-impact development, would further impact the future quality of the Indian River Lagoon. The comprehensive plan, Chapter 1, states in 1-1.2.1D, commercial development objective is to consider the relationship to surrounding land uses and natural systems. along with the environmental impact. Also, Chapter 5 addresses the coastal management elements objectives shown in 5-1.1b, managing the impacts of development of the Indian River Lagoon. I believe that these factors were not taken in consideration in the staff's decision. This parcel is not compatible with the Town of Malabar Comprehensive Plan's future land use maps and chapters, along with the land development codes. Our town historical fathers desired a pristine riverfront on the east side of US 1. This means no future development. In 1976, the Town Council created a coastal preserve zoning and land use for the parcels on the east side of US 1. The lowest land use impact in our zoning districts in commercial general is the second highest land use impact, with industrial being the highest use. This parcel is not capable with the Town of Malabar Comprehensive Plan, future land use maps, and chapters, along with land development codes. The question is the biggest question, will this parcel handle what activities commercial general is intended for? This parcel would not meet the commercial general requirements for traffic, parking, pedestrian, deceleration lanes, turning lanes, and is located on a dangerous curve in US 1. There is a 100-foot building setback requirement that's shown on your map that I gave you for the parcel, for any parcel along US 1, and this parcel as it stands would not meet the Land Development Code's Article 3 District Provisions requirement as shown in Table 1-3.3E if any development was to occur in the future. Also, any development would have to meet the size and dimension requirements shown in Table 1-3.3A, which is in front of you. For these reasons, the parcel is not capable of supporting a commercial general land use as shown in the Land Development Code, Article 2, Land Use and Zoning, Section 1-2.6C, Commercial Activities, along with Article 3, District Provisions, Section 1-31L, Commercial General. Also, the Comprehensive Plan Policy 1-1.2.2, General Pattern of Commercial Land Use is not met. And number 2 is Rick Peel, P-E-I-E-L.
Hi, my name is Rick Pidell. I live at 142 Riverview Drive in Malabar. And as my card stated, I'm just here to state that I am against coastal preserve. I think there's a reason for it. Many of us are the neighbors that Stuart spoke about that knew the property existed. Nobody knew it was coastal preserve until recently. So I'm against any further development there. It opens up the doors. We know I'm not going to repeat what everybody's been talking about. But again, I am just against it. Thank you.
Okay, next is Reagan O'Rourke.
My name is Regan O'Rourke, 141 Riverview Drive. I live in the house that Stuart and Nancy sold me 4 years ago. The primary purpose for my purchasing that house over others I considered was the river view. And with all due respect, I will have an economic adjustment to my property with the time I go to sell it. A river view, everyone I think agrees, is more valuable than a property stuck a mile in. In terms of the concept of preservation, what does coastal preserve mean? What did it mean when it was originally approved? They were thinking about our future, and it's our turn to think about our children and grandchildren's future. Keep the land as a preserve where the country's running out of it. Lastly, the attorney for the board has mentioned that this will not open the floodgate of other requests for variances. I respectfully disagree. If I knew you would approve it, I think I would apply tomorrow for a Starbucks someplace along the East Coast, east of the highway. I think a Starbucks would be beautiful there, but against the concept of preservation and conservation, which is our job as trustees of the land. So I would urge that the council let the boards build their luxury upscale boutique in a place more suited. Thank you.
Patricia Marshall, please.
My name is Patricia Hammock. I was formerly Marshall. I lived here since I was 19 years old. I live now on 165 Riverview Drive. The part of land that's in question right now does not block my view. I'm not here to bash the Whartons, but I am in disagreement with your desire to put a bed and breakfast. The impact not only on the environment, but on the road, the traffic. We already impacted the traffic from their restaurant, which is not their fault, but it does happen. We've already had 2 people that were killed, which was not their fault, crossing back and forth. A bed and breakfast on the river would also cause a lot more traffic crossing back and forth, because where would they park? On the shoulder of the highway, or are they going to park into the restaurant parking lot across the street, which would cause foot traffic back and forth, back and forth. This land, my husband, Donald Marshall, helped form this committee a long time ago. I've lived here since I was 19 years old. I'm 82 now. We took this property, and we lived here in peace with everybody here because we wanted to keep this a rural area. That was the point, to keep Palm Bay from taking us in and overdoing us with some of their debacles. Now, we want a bed and breakfast on the river that is not conducive to put a bed and breakfast on the river. It's a shore. It's a river that belongs to all of Malabor, not just a few of us that live there. We're already witnessing traffic on Riverview Drive from the restaurant, and this is going to be added traffic. People think it's a through street. They don't read signs. They're going back and forth, turning around. They're going to an egress up at the north end to turn around and come back if they want to go south. They've got valet parking that crosses back and forth across the street. Half of them don't even use the signals. They just rush the traffic. I can't see the purpose of putting, if the Whartons would really like to do something for the community, to put a bed and breakfast in this community, there's a piece of property, it's 2 blocks up south, that has plenty of room to do all of that. It's already commercial, it's on the west side of the street. It wouldn't affect as badly our traffic or the riverfront. That's all I have to say. I'm just sorry that this has become that we're not a rural community anymore, and I just would like to understand why everybody has to have everything at the doorstep.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker is Barbara Kaminsky.
It irritates me so bad. They knew that when they gave me a property, you couldn't do anything.
My name is Barbara Tominski. I live at 107 Riverview Drive. I purchased my house in 2013 for several reasons. I would like to see the land remain as a coastal preserve because we need to stop preserving rural land. First of all, I received a postcard today from the Fish and Wildlife Foundation of Florida, and they have young people in college designing new license plates in order to raise money to help in these causes, to keep the land preserved for animals, fish, and just for the beauty of it all. Secondly, I am witnessing, and I know that we all talk about this, but the climate change is really incredible. This has been the hottest January through July in the history of the United States, and Alaska is suffering big time. I was there 3 weeks ago, and the people in Alaska cannot believe what's happening. You may not think it's affecting us, but it will. The glaciers up there were falling apart as we were driving through in our cruise ship at an unbelievable rate. And the water level is going to rise, which means the oceans rise, the rivers rise, everything will. The piece of land that is very small and it's a very steep downgrade. I'm wondering why or how a building could be put there and be functioning and not fall and slide into the river. Recently, there were some trees and bushes planted, and during the heavy rainstorms that we had a couple of weeks ago, a couple of them have uprooted and kind of fallen down the edge of the cliff of the land. So to me, I would be leery of putting a building there, to be honest with you. Many people have agreed that there are a lot of parcels of land on the opposite side of the highway, which would be very sufficient in building something like this. And finally, I think the traffic problems are going to increase dramatically. I don't know where they would end up putting more automobiles to park. It's already been said that they're using Riverview Drive as a turnaround. People don't realize it's a dead-end cul-de-sac, and they do come through there. So I think that the council should seriously think about not just right now, but the future, just the future. Even 10 years down the road, it's going to make a big difference. And I hope that Nancy and Stuart, who have been friends of mine for a long time, so this is very difficult for me to say all of this, but I really hope that they find some place that they can do and enjoy their vision and create this hotel boutique, but I don't think it belongs on that small piece of land. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is David Monkello.
Hi everybody, I'm Dave Kello. I live at 2850 Smith Lane out here in Malabar. I run a real estate brokerage and come from a position of compassion for anybody's goals in real estate, be it residential, commercial, multifamily, whatever. Being a broker has also afforded me the unique responsibility to see people grow. And my biggest obstacle in business that I've seen ever since I got into real estate and many sales careers before, fear is always the motivator. Fear is always the demonstrator, but it's also the demon. Fear drives a lot of people's decisions, and I think a lot of what's been brought up to you guys so far has been nothing but fear. And unfortunately, fear does not bring solutions. The only way for fear to work to anybody's advantage or bring results is to come with the right attitude and the right goal. And unfortunately, the frame of mind of not just this existing council or mayor, but for many before you, it has been a consistent position of fear, fear of growth, fear of the unknown, fear of the what if. The only thing that I haven't heard anybody ever address at any of these town council meetings is a person who's coming in here as a business owner and willing to devote tens or hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. Nobody seems to care or want to talk about the fear that they have, the fear of failure. What if they invest all of this money into this idea, into this town, and more importantly, into this town council? What if they put all of this on the line, and what if they lose everything? Nobody really addresses that. The fear of growth is something that has stalled Malabar for years. It is a part of the reason that I left this town 2.5 years ago. But I refuse, as an individual, to not be a part of the solution. So, myself, like many others, and unfortunately for a lot of the people who've been here for a lot of years, there is a younger demographic taking over. Not only are we taking over, we are spending more money to do everything. We are spending more money for our power than you guys ever have. We are spending more money for water now than we did 25 years ago. We're spending more money on our cars, but more importantly, we're spending more money on our real estate. What used to cost us $80 a square foot to build 5-10 years ago just cost me $155 a square foot. I chose to spend my money to bring it to Malabar to raise my 2 kids, to enjoy it with my wife. I chose a very unique piece of property that, just like Nancy and Stuart, forced me to come in front of the town council a couple of times for my own variance changes, and the level of resistance that I received up until that meeting was not felt in town council. It was met from fear of everybody worried about the domino effect. Fear has always been a motivator for me individually. Fear is what got me from homelessness. Fear is what started my business. But not fear of what if. It was my fear of failure. I was dedicated to the mission. And so far, I'd like to think everything I've done in this community since I moved here in 2012 has left a positive impact. I would like to just implore you from a business owner standpoint to remember that our population, our demographic in Malabar is changing. People want to raise their families here, but we are damn tired of spending our money in other places outside of Malabar. We want our feed stores to grow. We want our sign shops here to get our business. Everybody that wants to own a business wants to start in Malabar. And a big part of it is, it's rural. We get to do whatever we want, right? That's the big thing. You park your cars on the property. You can have 5 acres and a giant garage that fills most of your property, and we love it. It's one of the biggest sells. I sell a lot of Malabar real estate. I've got properties for sale right now just on Weber Road. You'll see them. When you see my signs, they're beautiful. I leave a positive impact. If you have a business trying to leave a positive impact on your town, that's a positive impact on your legacy. Don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid of changing what you think your legacy might be. Instead, be afraid of what your legacy could be if you're too afraid to fail. That's all I have. Thank you.
Nancy Pelton.
Hello, my name is Nancy Pelton, and I'm President and CEO of the Greater Palm Bay Chamber of Commerce, located at 4100 Dixie Highway Northeast in Palm Bay. I've been asked to speak on behalf of one of our longtime chamber partners, the Yellow Dog Cafe. It is my understanding that they are requesting a rezoning from coastal preserve to commercial general. I understand that this seems like a huge change as Brevard County focuses on the ills of the Indian River Lagoon, and I know that the town of Malabar focuses on preserving its way of life. The Yellow Dog Cafe has been in business in Malabar for 22 years, employing roughly 40 personnel. It is an esteemed restaurant, even bringing world-renowned Emerald Lagasse to film his experience at their restaurant. They consistently win accolades for their fabulous food, romantic atmosphere, and fabulous views. They are entrepreneurs with a vision. Methodically over time, they have continued to grow and expand the restaurant with a dock, a deck, a crosswalk, and even put in a lift station for their outside bathrooms. They have been good stewards of the environment and will continue to do so with this rezoning. The small 0.31 acre parcel of land that is in question is surrounded by a commercial zone. They are not looking to build a factory on it, but a small complex that will complement their current operations, taking into account the aesthetics of US 1 and the river. The river is part of their livelihood, so it would not be in their own interest to do anything that would jeopardize it. Stuart and Nancy have spent millions of dollars on the restaurant and surrounding properties to ensure they are a world-class establishment. Due to their sewer and water connections, they are not damaging the Indian River Lagoon and would develop any new structures in accordance with environmental standards, becoming a model for integration of business along the Indian River Lagoon. At this time, you are simply voting on rezoning a 0.31 acre of land. It seems like you have a business that has been a good steward of their riverfront property, and they are looking to continue that tradition. Development will not be allowed without meeting all the environmental requirements, infrastructure, and the like that demands from Malabar Town Council. If they cannot comply with the regulations, the town of Malabar will still enjoy higher taxes from this rezoning vote due to the change from a coastal preserve to commercial general. Thank you.
Next is Lackman Smith.
My name is Lachlan Smith. I live at 133 Riverview Drive. I've been there since 2002. I actually was neighbors with Stuart and Nancy. I want to talk a little bit about the preserve aspect, the view aspect. Preserve has been basically disrupted for many years. When I moved there was definitely a bit more vegetation, waterfront, accessibility to that area, which was slowly, taken up over the years, which has already affected the preserve by all, greatly. I think the building across the street, that ugly warehouse that they have, that they have the parking and everything in, I mean, that'd probably be a good location. I wouldn't mind seeing that thing be torn down and they could put a 2-story, whatever building there, parking garage underneath, that'd be great. I would be not against something like that. The view of the river, I grew up, on the water, love the view of the water. I kind of was sad to see the shrubs that were planted there, 5 days after the zoning. It was kind of a spiteful move, and it really disrupted everybody in the neighborhood. It's kind of a situation that just seemed like a stab in the back, kind of childish, not getting their way type thing, I just don't like the whole outlook on the whole thing, I was able to use that waterfront for many years, sailboating, going down there. I gradually was forced off the property. Was told that they owned the property, which they didn't own at the time. I guess they own it now, I'm not sure. But, it's a horrible situation. Honestly, I don't trust the school here, Nancy. I don't trust anything they say because they lied to me before. And I just want it to be a safe atmosphere, and by all means, let's build something right there where that building's at. It's already right there, ready to go. Tear it down and build something good. That's all.
Thank you. Deborah Ball.
I consider this to be spot zone. There's already a parking problem everyone knows about. Patrons have to park on the west side of the road. The parking problem would be worse if another building was built on that little parcel. I spoke at planning and zoning in late July. At that time, I learned that the property doesn't meet the minimum requirements for commercial property, it's too small. And furthermore, the setbacks for US 1 theoretically would not permit a building to be built. So why is the council for making a increased traffic that everyone spoke about? I'd be concerned about guests if they didn't use the valet parking, if they crossed the highway with their baggage, it might not be good. My husband and I owned 5 houses in the Riverview Homes subdivision located behind the Morgan's warehouse. We still own 4. We sold one to Rick Pope, who has submitted comments to you, the council, against the proposed change via email. We bought our first house in 1984, and we've known the Morgans since 97 when they bought the restaurant, as they lived in the neighborhood. Some of our properties abut the commercial property, and we are not always in agreement with modifications they make, as sometimes they negatively affect our properties. Subsequent to the planning and zoning meeting, as often mentioned, on the 24th of July, on Sunday morning the 28th, as I was going to church, I noticed that something was happening on Riverside. When I returned, a large quantity of trees had been planted, and that will effectively block the river views for many of the neighbors in the Riverview homes. In general, I think coastal preservation is good for Malabar, helps maintain the rural nature of the town. I feel it would be conflicted with the reason for which many people moved here if it were changed. As I said, planning and zoning, Malabar is not all pastures and horses or trails, even though we're now a designated trail town. Malabar is unique with its river views, and I believe that keeping waterfront commercial-free is highly desirable.
Thank you. Next up is Donald Hibbing.
You have his card? Jason Steele? Jason Steele?
Yes.
You do, okay.
I'm taking them in the order that I received them.
Okay. My name is Donald Hicks, I live at, excuse me, 8719 Hazelwood Street in Palm Bay. I do a lot of work down here in Malabar, and have had the great pleasure with knowing Nancy and Stuart Borton since I've moved here. I've heard a lot of people complain about a lot of things, and I mean, the Yellow Dog Restaurant has free valet parking, so everybody wants to talk about people pulling up on Riverview Road. If they do, I would imagine they're not going to the restaurant. Number two, they're talking about the driving situation. There's a van that sells food right there in the corner of Riverview Road that they ran over the stop sign just, what, a week ago, knocked it down. Those people, the traffic problems that you have there are not from the Yellow Dog Restaurant. There's a nice big sign out that says free valet parking for everybody that comes there. Of course, if they build this boutique, there's going to be valet parking for that. Somebody's talking about walking baggages across the street. They're going to pull their car up, unload their baggages, and then have somebody park their car professionally across the street. These people, as long as I've known them, have been, just upstanding citizens, and I just think that this is would be a positive thing for the town of Malabar. Thank you.
All right, Lloyd.
Good evening, I'm Lloyd Barrett, 1085 Hall Road. We bought the property in 1973. I've been living there since 1981. I got roped into serving on the council when I first moved into town. And I was the chairman of the council in 1985 when we created and passed the first comprehensive land use plan. So in some small measure, I was responsible for the reason that a lot of y'all moved here, which is to preserve the rural and environmental nature of Malabar. I've known Stuart and Nancy ever since they put the restaurant in. They've never lied to me. There are already two properties to the north that have similar uses. Stuart's talking about downsizing it, using less than is in your requirements. Brevard Zoo just recently started a program about ecotourism. This would be a great idea for a bed and breakfast. I've lived in Brevard County since 1949. My dad was weather officer for the first launch here. And I'm trying to think of another view of a hotel room in South Brevard that would be as magnificent as the one that would come from these rooms. I think, I'm a lead follower, get the hell out of the way kind of guy, so I usually end up chairing whatever organization I belong to. I ended up chairing the Melbourne Chamber, and as just prior to that, I organized the first ever visioning seminar for Brevard County, and I've been pondering ever since, because I'm basically a photographer and an artist. I'm not a realtor or a builder or anything like that. I really pondered the value of the environment, because we all moved here for the environment. That's why we all moved here, to Brevard first, and then also especially to Malabar. But it occurred to me, having lived here all my life, I went to Southwest, the original Southwest Junior High, Mel High, UF, came back and spent my life raising a family and working here, that in order to enjoy the environment, you have to have a good business-based for your community. You need jobs, so you can afford to enjoy the environment that's around you. I'm doing wrong on my law school professors who kicked me out for being too concise and talking too much. I'd just like to say that I definitely support what Stuart and Nancy are trying to do. I know that the Yellow Dog has become one of the most successful restaurants in the state of Florida. People come from all over. It's a destination. I think it'd just be a real plus for the town of Malabar if y'all would go ahead and approve this. And again, thank you for making us a crane sanctuary.
Next up is Virginia Foley.
Good evening, I'm Virginia Foley. I live at 3851 Atlantic Ridge Lane in Grant, Florida. I own Berry Patch Preschool on Malabar Road. I have known Nancy and Stuart for approximately 20 years. I've always known them to be honest and helpful to anyone in the town of Malabar that needed any help at all. They've been very active in the Malabar community, and they are very strong supporters of Malabar. They own and operate, you know, the Yellow Dog, and it is a first-class operation. It's known throughout Brevard County, and it's actually known throughout Brevard County, and I've talked to people in other states that have been there too. The Yellow Dog is an enormously successful business, and it brings in generous tax revenues for the town of Malabar. Their proposed endeavor in Malabar, based on their track record, I believe will be an enormous asset to the town of Malabar, just as the Yellow Dog is and will continue to be.
People never learn.
And one other thing that I get real upset about is when I hear people say something about environmental lands that are owned by the general public, people in the general public, not the government. The government charges taxes to those people that own those lands. And anyone could have purchased that piece of property, or a group of people could have purchased that property had they so desired before Nancy and Stuart did, when someone else was paying taxes on that property. Thank you.
Next is Jim Parker.
My name is Jim Parker. My wife and I live at 2885 Orange Avenue. And we also have a property on the east side of the dock. Lived there for 40 years. I'm not sure what bucket I'm in, but I do know that I'm opposed to this rezoning. I too am a business owner, have been for a lot of years. And believe me, I understand fear. But my fear is for what we're going to leave our grandkids. And I just want to go on the record as opposed to this.
Thank you. Next up is Bob Seaman.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, my name is Bob Sigmund. I live at 2305 LaCourt Lane. Most of you know me. I was the chair of the park board. The other reason why you know me is because we have a boat club. It's called the Malabar Mariners Association. It's located at 1555 US 1. That club's 35 years old. We've been here for 35 years. We pay taxes on the river. I don't think that changing the coastal preservation zoning is a good idea. We do what coastal preservation requires. Recreation, that's all. There's nothing else there. Start putting large buildings up, and all you have to do is look a little north from the Yellow Dog, and you'll see there's a retirement community,
It's 6 stories. There's the Venetian, which is another 6 stories. It's gonna happen. I know it's progress, and that's what happens. But in the little town of Malabar, we have a lot of coast. We don't want to waste it. Because once it goes up, it's really hard to get it down. The ramifications and repercussions of doing this is a very difficult thing. And I know it's growing pains. It's what happens. But that's my view. Thank you.
Next up is George Foster.
George Foster, 1205 Malabar Road. I'm a volunteer member of the Planning and Zoning Board, but I'm not here tonight to represent the Planning and Zoning Board. Just my own personal thoughts. I support the rezoning of this property. The Bortons have gone to the city, to our town, gone through all the requirements of our town. The staff, our professional people, the engineers and planners, followed all the requirements, and the town has been supported so far. We have, as a town, as the planners, as the town council, as a professional staff, we've all made a decision that we need to support and endorse and actually seek out businesses and quality businesses and retailers on our arterials, US 1, Malabar, and Babcock. We've all made a decision that's what we need to do in order for the town of Malabar to be able to meet its requirements and obligations, to be able to provide the services for its citizens, and to do all the things that our town does legally and for our citizens. And as a result, we have heard from our town and from our administrators and our key people that the town struggles to pay to be able to meet its obligations and requirements. And we have a unique place with very special problems of drainage. Those are expensive, the equipment is expensive. Everything about running a town is difficult and expensive, and we've heard from our key people that our town is struggling to do that, and we as citizens have a part to play. We have a part to play in certainly keeping our areas clean, proper, and trash picked up by the roads, and our gutters and our culverts and all maintained, so the drainage is all good. So Nancy and Stuart, 20 years they've been in our town, and they've done a magnificent job. Their place is excellent. It's a destination that people have always thought was special. They come from near and far. And for them to add a boutique hotel with a few rooms, 5, 7, even up to 12, is a minor addition to the coastline there. And what do we really expect to see when we go down US 1 or A1A, any waterfront road? We expect to see waterfront restaurants. We expect to see lodging. We expect to see something really nice. Do we actually drive over to the riverfront, the steep embankment, of US 1 and sit there and look down for the river? More likely than not.
Stay on land, please. Stay on the agenda item.
Okay, so.
God forbid he talks about it.
You got 30 seconds.
Okay, so I'll wrap it up. I support the town, I support the staff, I support the engineers, I support the decision that we need to move forward with retail and quality businesses, and that's exactly what this is. So, thank you.
And next up, Jason Steele.
Good evening, my name is Jason Steele. I'm the Director of Government Relations with Smith & Associates. I live at 343 Orlando Boulevard. I'm a former state representative that happened to represent Malabar back in 1980. I'm a certified member and expert witness in the courts on real estate. I'm the former Director of the Division of Real Estate. And I testify quite often on land use and real estate values and things of that nature. Just exactly what I thought was going to happen happened tonight. And it's all good people who have concerns and passions for their city, coming out and expressing their fears. Once again, we're talking about fears on some things that just aren't true. And I think if after you hear the testimony tonight, I'm going to talk a little bit about real estate values, and I'm going to talk a little bit about a variety of other things so that we can get to the bottom of what needs to be done here. One of the reasons Malabar did not have Malabar Road 4-laned a long time ago is because of the resistance of the city to stay very small and rural. Now that's good or bad, but right now, you're now in 2019 and you have a road that's still not 4-laned that needed to be 4-laned 10 years ago. And yet that resistance continues. I'm from Indian Atlantic. We have the same problem in Indian Atlantic. We've got 5th Avenue, we've got A1A, and now we've got here US 1 and Malabar Road, which are major arterial roads. And some of the emotions here tonight just aren't true. But if we talk about emotions for a second, let me remind you of an old songwriter by the name of Jim Croce, who wrote a song called If You Could Put Time in a Bottle. And I wish I could go back to put time in a bottle when I came here 23 years ago and met Nancy and Stuart Ford. Because I sat out there at that restaurant and I looked at the Indian River and I heard the passion of two people who wanted to dedicate themselves to the Indian River Lagoon, to build the finest restaurant that's possible in this state, and to do good things for the city of Malabar. As a matter of fact, they're the ambassadors of Malabar. They're the stewards of this city. They brought more things to Malabar than anybody that I know. Every governor, every state senator, every United States senator, not state senator, United States senator, has been to the Yellow Dog Cafe. Everyone Gassi, oh my God, they put Malabar on the map. Now there's some things tonight that I just really want to respectfully disagree with, because I know there's some people who are very upset about the view. But let me tell you what private property rights says. There is no guarantee of a view. Period. Does not exist unless you're right on the river. It just doesn't exist. So, sorry, that's just not part of the private property rights. Let's talk about a couple other things. Let's talk about traffic. We're talking about 3 or 4 units. Oh my God, maybe 8 cars, maybe 10 cars, let's say 20 cars. Are you kidding me? Really, is that going to be a major traffic problem for the town of Malabar on US 1? What has Stuart and Nancy done for this community? They've raised more money for MRC, for Promise, for almost everybody in town, and helpless and homeless people, and they've done more for this community than you can imagine. Let me talk about the private property rights, because your land use plan was just put into play. And I talked to Mr. Stansberry up in DEO today, and basically what he told me was, Jason, yes, everything's fine with Malabar, But they do need to understand that they've got to have private property rights, and they have to understand what those private property rights are. Every piece of property around this property is zoned commercial. Stuart and Nancy Borton have agreed to sign off on a site plan that's binding. Stuart and Nancy Borton have asked this, came to the mayor, came to the staff, and asked to put an overlay on this property. To basically put everything in place so it's all there. Now, you cannot isolate a piece of coastal preserve property and say that that's consistent with what we need to do. It's not consistent. It's my opinion that this development will bring lots of things to Malabar. Number one, it will give the city of Malabar an opportunity to portray the Indian River Lagoon the way it needs to be portrayed. Nancy and Stuart Borton have been the ambassadors of Malabar for a long period of time.
Thank you. Time's up.
Thank you very much.
It's Norma Frazee, and I live at 2860 Rocky Point Road in Malabar, and I've been a resident for about 25 years. And most of that time, I've known Stuart and Nancy, and have been a good friend, and I'm going to speak as a friend of theirs. I remember the day when they bought Yellow Dog Cafe. In fact, I was there when we looked at it, and when they started it, and all the things they did to it. And it's just remarkable from where it came from to what it is now. And how they followed the rules and did what they had to do to make it right. And we were there the whole time they did it. And it's made a great place there for a destination for so many people here in our community and the surroundings. Both Nancy and Stuart have been in the restaurant industry for a long time. And they know not just how to do excellent food, but do the acceptance of buildings themselves and how to take care of the building. And I've seen that through the years. Knowing Nancy and Stuart tells me if they have a chance to build this small hotel, it will be an improvement here in the town, not just for them, but for the town of Malabar. So be so thoughtful and vote yes for the change in zoning and make this possible.
Is Tracy Good?
Hi, I'm Tracy Good. I live at 1099 Meadowbrook Road in Palm Bay. It's my first time, so be easy on me. I just want to attest to Stuart and Nancy's character and the love that they have for Malabar. It's not, they could go anywhere. They could pick a restaurant up, they could move anywhere they wanted. Cities would love to have them. It would be a success. I've shown them property and said, do you want to look beachside? Do you want to look here? Do you want to look there? They want to be in Malabar. They care about Malabar. They love Malabar. I think anything that they do, they're going to be in total respect with what other people expect of them. And I think their restaurant's been a value. I can't imagine that whatever they decide to do, if you accept it, if you allow them to do it, is only going to be a benefit to Malabar. And your job is to make sure that you're looking out for all of Malabar. Change is coming. It may not happen today. We are growing. Our community's growing. Our county is growing. It is up to you to make sure you're growing with the rest of the city. So I hope that you vote for them. Thank you.
Ellen Holmes.
Please nobody tell my husband I came up and spoke. He told me not to. He said, you can go, don't say anything. But, you know, I sit here at 778 Wise Street, West 5 of Melbourne. That's where I live. And a number of years ago, as a former county commissioner, there was a very, very large parcel of land down off of Micco Road. And some of the people with these same issues were saying they did not want this person to build on that land. Well, I said, you're close to Palm Bay. If the county doesn't keep them within the county and we allow them to rezone it, one house for 2.5 acres, which I thought was very reasonable, the Palm Bay was gonna take them over like that. They called me a liar. I actually had to have sheriff deputies come with me to those meetings. It was not very good. It was turned down. Actually, the people did back out. They said, we can't handle this anymore. And what happened? Palm Bay came in and they built it. And now it's like one house per 3rd acre. And it can be pretty rough. The Bortons are pretty close to Palm Bay. They may not be, within striking distance, if you will, of Palm Bay taking them over. But it is their property. And as an elected official, it is your responsibility to make sure that what they do with their property is legal, and I haven't heard anything that has been illegal. You might not like it, might not like not being able to see or whatever, but there's nothing that's been illegal about what they are trying to do. Another piece of property over on Melbourne Beach, a lady owned the property, wanted to build her house on it. The neighbors came out and said, oh, we just love walking the property and seeing the birds and all this stuff. And I said, but it's not your property. It is their property. And Stuart and I ran against each other for county commission. I beat him. I love them. He's got great food down there. But in any case, he has always loved Malabar. I just know that. From our conversations, I've had dinner down there. He's got a gorgeous place, and I think that it's a responsibility as an elected official to do what is legal, not what is, what you hear. Thank you. Don't tell my husband.
Next up is Betsy Farmer.
I know you're a little stressed now. Don't give her a microphone, right? In the essence of time, I'm just going to say, okay, first of all, Betsy Farmer. I live at 280 Sagecrest Circle in West Melbourne, and I am definitely here in support of Stuart and Nancy. They have been amazing friends for 20 years. They've done so much for this community. I echo everything that everybody said in support of Stuart and Nancy, and I think that sometimes change is good. And I just want to, aren't we talking 4 rooms? 4, right? So I'm not thinking that's going to be a big traffic issue. I think we need, I know you have to call it hotel because of the zoning, right? But, I'm sorry? Right, well, I was just wanting to confirm 4, right? Okay. Okay, here we go. 4 rooms, maybe 4 cars, maybe 8 tops. That's not a big traffic issue, okay? I didn't realize, so anyways, I'm gonna leave you with that. It's not really a hotel, it's more like a little tiny bed and breakfast. And good luck.
Okay, thank you.
Hey everybody, how you doing? My name is Christopher Goodman. I live at 1099 Meadowbrook Road in Palm Bay. I am a leading home loan provider here in this county. I've got a mortgage business that's been in county. I've been here for 13 years. I don't know much about planning and zoning, specifically in detail, and not being a resident of Malabar, I'm going to keep my comments brief. But the 2 things that I do know a lot about are growth and development and people. I moved to Brevard County 13 years ago in July of 2006, and my first trip ever to the Yellow Dog was just a couple of months later. I think it was October of 2006, if I remember correctly. And since in those 13 years, I've become a very frequent patron of the restaurant, and more importantly, have become very close friends, I consider myself, to the Bortons and many of their staff. The growth and development that's happening in this county is happening from businesses that are coming to our county in other areas. So I should rephrase that. The growth and development in Malabar that we're seeing, and a lot of the concerns that I'm seeing about traffic and people coming in are not, you know, from one restaurant or one business in Malabar. It's from a lot of the folks that are moving with major companies that love the beauty of Malabar and that choose to live down here, which I think is wonderful. And being in the line of work that I'm in, I speak to these people every day that love the opportunity to have land and larger lot sizes and things of that nature. So they look towards South County, which is echoed by Mr. Callow and some other folks. Growth and development is inevitable, I guess is my theme. And then I want to speak to the topic and subject matter of people. The people that own and work at the Yellow Dog day to day are more passionate and show a meticulous nature in running a business that I see in a lot of businesses out there. There was a gentleman before that referenced, you know, about maybe a Starbucks coming. It's going to happen one day. There's going to be one day somewhere between, let's say, Palm Bay and Sebastian, and they're not going to provide, or invest, I should say, as much as the Bortons and their staff do within the city of Malabar. I've seen, excuse me, what they're looking to do. Well, I encourage everyone, if you're not familiar with their business, to go there, because what you will see is a passion that is unlike.
Please stay on the topic.
Okay. I encourage everybody to simply invest in a business that's invested in Malabar for a very long period of time with a lot of passion. So I encourage you guys to, and everybody to be supportive of this growth, which is inevitable. Thank you.
What it was, you went on people. You can't do that. All right, so we'll go to Liz Ritter, please.
Liz Ritter, 2860 Orange Avenue. I won't get into any of the emotional stuff. Everybody knows that Nancy and Stu run a great restaurant, so that's common knowledge here. I want to say the basics. They're going from coastal preserve to CG, and you have the handout. The requirements for CG, they do not meet the minimum width. They don't have the size lot that's required. So that's the basic, that's the facts. Okay, I disagree with our planner. If you look at our 2018 Comp Plan, Chapter 5, Coastal Management Element. On 90 of the 93 shoreline properties that are above the Indian River Lagoon, the town maintains a coastal preservation designation, which restricts the use of these parcels to water-dependent, non-commercial piers, boat slips, and docks, limiting the runoff potential from shoreline development. I've been here since '88. I married into a family to start a business here in 1971. I enjoy our business, I don't fear it. We get people from all over the United States and other countries, and they come here because they want to enjoy the area in Florida and sunshine. So there's lots of reasons, but our charter is we're rural residential, and we've been trying to get ecotourism going here for quite some time. So I've been on the planning and zoning board, I've been at council, I've been a member of the town trying to keep involved. And we need the ecotourism because we are rural residential. And there's a lot of business opportunity here for that type of business. I admire what they're trying to do, but they don't have the required land for one. And if you open that up, of these 90 other lots that are not developed, there's no reason why they wouldn't want to come in and do something similar. It doesn't have to be CG to go to the top of the rung. It could be a different type of residential or something else. So
I think that the people in this town moved here, they enjoy the sight of the river. I mean, back when Bill Hall or Ed Booth, they cleared off there on US 1, so when you came down Malabar Road, you'd see the river. And that's our vision of our town, that's the way it was set out, that's why people moved here.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Julianne Hirsch.
She's coming.
She's coming. Here she comes.
She's coming.
I'm not sure I can make it, but
I'm sure she can. Somebody want her.
Taking it from there? You got it.
my name is Juliana Hirsch. I live on 1035 Melbourne Road. I'm here to support this change in zoning. I'm having a hard time talking, so everything's already been said about the wardens and how wonderful they are and how they're going to do it. All I can say, this girl made a silk purse out of a sow's ear and they bought this place. We called to get to talk. That's all I have to say.
Oh, we've been on the other end, so I guess I want to be on her side. Hi, my name is Marissa Aquaviva, 1120 Baywood Court, Malabar. I think everything has been said. Some things, are not surprising. I served on council for 6 years and had a lot of decisions that are facing you with changing zoning and of the such. And I remember one certain thing, and I won't speak to that, but